Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. This is Said Mirza from MillionaireReason.com, and today I wanted to announce that I have sent letters to the doctors of the law based in the U.S. Not all of them, the high-profile guys, and God willing, I'm going to be continuing this campaign of sending letters to the rest of the doctors of the law that I can find who are popular, who have a following, who are basically not doing their duty of studying and teaching the writ of God in the Quran, and are actually misleading men from the path of God. And this is something that the believers are bound to do. This is their duty. I know a lot of people are sincere and they are believers. So in the Quran, you find that God exhorts us to warn those who are doing wrong and to strive against al kafirun with a great striving. So I wanted to share with you some verses from the Quran where God is exhorting us to do this. And this is whatever platform you have, whatever resources you have to bring them to bear in the service of God. You can't just be hiding in the shadows and be afraid of them. God is our ally, God is our protector. We should place our trust in God. There's nothing to be afraid of. These men are actually the ones who should be scared because they have, for the most part, um, put the Quran behind their backs and are actually promoting a religion that is not based on the Quran, and they have sold the proofs of God for a cheap price. And we should warn them, and this is really what it's about. If you've read Brother Garen's work, God Protocol, this is the central thesis of the protocol that we need to warn the unbelievers or the atheists or the religionists, whatever you want to call them, those who are not following the Quran and are actually promoting corruption, who are twisting the verses of the Quran, who are misleading men, who are doing evil. We're supposed to warn them because this is the only way that after the warning is when the punishments will come. So let's look at this here in chapter 11, verse 116. Oh, that among the generations before you there had but been a remnant forbidding corruption in the land, save a few, whom we saved among them. But those who did wrong followed what they had been given therein of opulence, and were lawbreakers. And never would thy Lord destroy the cities in injustice, when their people were those who do right. So God is saying here that uh, if they were only among the generations before who there had been a remnant in them who was forbidding corruption in the land, and those who were doing this, who were forbidding corruption in the land, God saved them. So this is how critical this is. If you don't want to be punished by God, then you need to stand up in your community, online, offline, doesn't matter. Within your family, you need to stand up and bear witness and call them towards to God and forbid the serving of idols, the twisting of verses of the Quran, of prohibiting indecency. This is chapter 2, verse 142. The foolish among mankind will say, what has turned them from their course which they were on? Say thou, to God belong the east and the west. He guides whom he wills to a straight path. So I was also on a course. I was born and raised in a Sunni family, in a Sunni sect, and God, in His infinite mercy, guided me to the right path. So He guides whom He wills to a straight path. He has guided me, He has guided the believers. And we read verse 143, and thus we made you an intermediary community, that you might be witnesses to mankind, and that the messenger might be a witness to you. And we made not the course which thou wast on, save that we might know him who follows the messenger from him who turns on his heels. And it is hard, save for those whom God has guided. And God would not cause your faith to be lost. God is towards men kind and merciful. So you need to understand that we are an intermediate community, we are a balanced community, and that we are witnesses to mankind, just as the messenger was a witness to us. So if we claim to follow the messenger, we need to be witnesses to mankind. We need to warn mankind. This is the central point. And we read in chapter 25, let's start at verse 51. And had we willed, we would have raised up in every city a warner. So obey thou not the false claimers of guidance, and strive thou against them thereby with a great striving. And if we claim to follow the messenger, this is the Muslims thing, right? They say we follow the messenger. Well, then if you follow the messenger, then you need to be a warner. You need to stand up and you need to warn man, and you need to warn specifically the spreaders of corruption in the land, which is what the daughters of the law are. So Let's look at the letter that I sent to the doctors of the law and also to whom it was sent. What I sent to them was a copy of my book, God's Written in the Quran, because since they claim to be the doctors of the law, they need to be following the writ of God. And in that work, what I have done is I have collated and, where necessary, given my own thoughts as to the implementation of the law that is in the Quran as regards to inheritance, divorce, food, charity, retaliation, etc. So, obviously, I cannot keep sending books to all these guys. So these are the main characters, if you will. These are the upper echelon of the Sunni religion in the Western world. These are the ones. These are the influential men. So I send them my book. The others who are more of middle or lower level, I'll just send them a letter. So the first person I sent it to was Javed Ahmed Ghamidi. Those who are from a South Asian background, they are familiar with his name. He's pretty popular. He was really popular in Pakistan, but then he had to run from there, and now he's based in Dallas, Texas, I believe. So, next one is Yasir Qadi. This guy needs no introduction. He's really famous. He is the resident scholar of Epic Masjid. This is also based in Dallas, Texas. Noman Ali Khan, I made a video about this gentleman. He is definitely a very popular character, and he's moving his efforts across the world now by setting up his institute, the Bayina Institute, where he promises to teach people what the Quran has to say. But in actuality, what he's doing is he's just trying to get them to go deeper into the Sunni religion. And then his ex-friend Omar Suleiman. This is another guy who's pretty influential on social media as well. Hamza Yusuf definitely needs no introduction. He's the president of Zaytuna College, and he targets the more liberal Muslims, but he's pushing the same agenda as well. Uthman ibn Farouk, this is some new and upcoming scholar who is from the One Message Foundation. He makes videos about dawah, about stumping Christians. Really, that's what his shtick is. Sajid Lipham, this is a guy who is not fairly well known, but I've followed him. I think he might be open to what I'm saying here, but God guides whom He wills. And then finally, Shabir Ali. This guy is based in Canada, and he runs that show Let the Quran Speak. Which, if you know anything about these guys, it's always a bait and switch tactic where they'll quote a verse from the Quran. If they do quote a verse from the Quran, and then they'll go into the Hadith land. So this guy is doing the same thing. But I did find I found him to be a little bit more reasonable than the rest. And I figured I'd send him a copy of my book and the letter as well. Now, what does the letter say? Peace be upon you. My name is Said Mirza, and I am a believer in God and the last day. I accept the Quran to be from God and believe in its claim of being clear, complete, preserved, and fully detailed. As a believer, it is my duty to warn men and invite them to the straight path of God, which is found in the Quran. You are a leader in your community, so I exhort you to hold fast to the Quran alone and to study and teach the writ of God, Al-Kitab, contained within it. It is your duty as a doctor of the law to implement and promote God's commands found in the Quran exclusively. You are failing in this duty and have more or less abandoned the Quran in favor of promoting a religion which is primarily based on sources outside of the Quran. Just as the doctors of the law before you, you have no legitimacy unless you uphold the Quran and only the Quran. This is from chapter 5, verses 67 to 69, the Quran, a complete revelation. O Messenger, convey thou what has been sent down to thee from thy Lord, and if thou do it not, then thou wilt not have conveyed his message, and God will protect thee from men. God guides not the people of the false claimers of guidance. Say thou, O doctors of the law, you have nothing to stand upon until you uphold the Torah and the Gospel and what was sent down to you from your Lord. And there increases many of them in inordinancy and denial what was sent down to thee from thy Lord. So grieve thou not over the people of the false claimers of guidance, the Al-Kafirun, those who heed warning, and those who hold to Judaism, and the Sabaeans, and the Christians. Whoso believes in God and the last day, and works righteousness, no fear will be upon them, nor will they grieve. I invite you to read my enclosed book, God's Word in the Quran, a guidance for the God fearing, where I have compiled the various commands of God as they relate to important matters such as marriage, inheritance, divorce, etc. As a doctor of the law, it is your duty to study, clarify, and implement these commands and also exhort your followers to do the same. I call you to become the men of God that you claim to be, to study and teach the writ of God in the Quran. This is from chapter 3, verse 79. It is not for a mortal that God should give him the writ and judgment and prophethood. Then he should say to men, be servants to me rather than God, but be men of God by what you have thought of the writ and by what you have studied. I also exhort you to stop promoting material, the hadith literature, and other books written by men besides the Quran, and to stop inventing lies about God. Those who invent lies about God will never be successful. And then this is chapter 11, verses 18 through 23. And who is more unjust than he who invents a lie about God? Those will be brought before their Lord, and the witnesses will say, these are they who lied against their Lord. In truth, the curse of God is upon the wrongdoers. Those who turn away from the path of God and would make it crooked, and of the hereafter they are deniers. Those will not escape in the earth, and they have not, besides God, any allies. Double for them is the punishment. They could not hear, neither did they see. Those are they who have lost their souls, and strayed from them is what they invented. Without doubt, it is they in the hereafter who will be the greatest losers. Those who heed warning and do righteous deeds and humble themselves unto their Lord, those are the companions of the garden, therein they abide eternally. I leave you with a speech from a brother in faith from days past who also stood up and exhorted his people to serve God alone and to not ascribe a partnership with him. And this is from chapter 40, verses 29 through 44. This is the speech that the believing man made when he rose up at the time of Pharaoh, in front of Pharaoh, and the messenger of God was also present there. Moses was present there. And if you know anything about Brother Gann's work, the phrase, "Oh my people," is the "Oh my people." This is the statement that needs to be said for the God protocol to be activated. So this is why this speech was included in there. And actually, these are my people. Why? Because most of these men are Pakistani. They have a Pakistani background. They have a South Asian background. So they are from my people. So this is a valid implementation of the God protocol. Finally, I hope you will consider the above with a sincere and open heart. Let not your pride and arrogance get in the way of sound judgment and humble submission to God and His commands. Please do not hesitate to email me at contact@woodyNotReason if you are so inclined. Sincerely, Saeed Mirza, woodyNotReason.com. So this is the letter of warning that was sent to the doctor of the law, and this fulfills the criteria of the God protocol, the initiation of it. And also, I send them a book, so this doesn't require any more digging. They just have to read the book carefully, and they'll see that what I'm saying is the truth. But I don't really expect them to change their ways. They are living a good life. They have a good setup. They're not gonna go against the Muslim crowd and say that we need to abandon the hadith, and we need to abandon the sunnah, and we need to abandon the forefathers, the practices that we are following, and follow the Quran alone. Obviously, they'll be thrown out. But as we know, this is the path that needs to be taken. It's a hard path, and most of these men will not take it because God has not guided them. So it is not my job here to guide anyone. God guides whom He wills. Our job as believers is to warn, to stand up and be witnesses. And to that regard, I encourage the believers that you need to stand up. I know it's difficult, but you need to stand up. God will protect you. So I think I should wrap this up. I hope that was of some use to you. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.